Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Gorcom, in which we speak to small cap executives right after they put on important news. With us today, Peter Hawley, President CEO of, you can see in the background there, Fabled Silver Gold, trades on TSX Venture under the stock symbol FCO. The company controls 100% of the Santa Maria gold and silver property in Mexico. It's got a silver equivalent 43-101 of 3.2 million ounces indicated, 1.1 million inferred, but they are working to expand that. In fact, they're in the middle of an 8,000 meter program right now that's been increased to 9,200 meters, a second drill added. Why? They've already got, for example, their best historical intercept, 11 meters of 1,672 grams per ton of silver and 3.74 grams per ton of gold. They got all sorts of fantastic results. It's in an amazing area, a mining-friendly jurisdiction, but that's the least of it. You know, one of their neighbors has produced over 250 million ounces of silver. The whole area has produced more silver over the last 500 years, 600 years than you can imagine, and they've got fantastic infrastructure. Peter, welcome back.
Thank you very much, George. Great to be back.
So you got two press releases. First, drill hole SM20 8B, big number there. And then right after that, you announced that you're increasing the drill program to 9,200 meters from 8,000 and adding a second drill. So safe to say that that last drill hole was the final decision necessary to increase it. Why the increase in exploration drilling?
There's two parts to that, George. And I'll just try to go back and for the people that haven't been following us, sort of set up the sequence. But
sure,
as you remember, that I was always predicting that there's more east-west structures than the original Santa Maria structure, and as such, the IP geophysics showed that. And then there was also, we predicted that there would be north-south structures or north-south lineaments, very similar to what you see within the Parral camp, which has produced over 800 million ounces. And there's no reason why you shouldn't see them on the property. And so, as such, we've identified, turns out to be now, multi-north-south structures.
You guys were right. You're dead on.
Yeah, and the one in particular, George, it's in the central part of the structure. And in reality, they would class, in the geology terms or structural terms, we'd classify this as a C1 regional fault. So it's the top of the category of faults with strength, and it's tectonic. And when I say tectonic, it means this is a big friggin' fault. So hole 8, and why I'm talking about this is hole 8, we left, we were on one side of the fault, we went around to the other side of the fault, and on hole 8, we were going to drill obliquely across this fault and hit the Santa Maria structure. And we got about 62 or 66 meters down the hole, and the hole size of the core we're drilling was about 1 7/8 inch wide diameter. And because of the broken ground and the oblique angle and everything else, we ended up plugging up the core barrel and we couldn't advance and everything else. So we came out of the hole and decided to go back in the hole, but we're going to drill it bigger. And so we're going to take a larger volume of rock. And in this case, it was increased to 3 3/4 inch. And
pretty much doubling it.
Yeah. And that would give us the structural integrity, so to speak, within the rock to be able to, get through the zone. And so the guys went back in, they reamed it out down to 62 meters or wherever we lost the other one, and then continued on to the bottom of the hole. Now, what's really interesting, and I told all the guys there, is that, whenever we hit the zone, make sure you drill through the zone and get into barren ground on the other side of it by enough meters to say, yes, we clearly have, and then that way we know we've done our job. Well, in this case, they drilled down and they said, yes, we've hit the zone. But what they didn't tell me, George, was, hey, this is a different type of rock. We haven't seen this before. And we're not really sure it's going to run. So what we'll do is, a sample costs about $35 US sample. So rather than sample this whole interval, we'll just take one sample out of it and we'll see if it runs. So they did. And they took a 1.1 meter sample. And as you mentioned, it ran, I don't know what it was, 79 grams per ton.
75.9, call it 76 grams per ton of silver. It ended.
Right. Well, the 7 meters after that to the end of the hole is the exact same unit with the exact same mineralization, probably looks even better. And they never sampled it, or they never assayed it. So needless to say, I wasn't very happy. So we have sampled it, and it went into the lab yesterday, and it's on the priority rush to get those results back. But to make it even worse than that, George, is I got to come back with the drill and go back in the hole and punch through that zone, because I don't know where it ends. I don't know how wide it is.
I mean, they followed your instructions to a T. They drilled, 7 meters through it.
Yeah.
So it's just, you got a surprise, right? I mean, this is why you guys are rushing it.
Yeah.
It's a rush assay.
No, it's, I know it leaves everybody, hanging on the cliff. And I agree. I don't like it any more than you do, but unfortunately, it's a procedure that we have to do to correct this.
Yeah, of course.
And it's not
a good thing, right? It's a good thing. You're actually going to say, let's see how much further this goes.
Yeah. So what we've done since that point in time is the next hole in the advancement of this thing. We drilled hole number 9 for the people listening for the first time. The hole number 9, we started off with PQ size core, 3 3/4 inch. Thought it was great. All were laughing. We drill down again. We're going to drill underneath this hole 8B. We target was something like 340 meters, somewhere around there. And we got to 325 meters, George, and twisted off the drill rods. And we probably have created the largest magnetic anomaly under the ground by leaving the drill bit and I don't know how many hundreds of feet of drill rod in the ground. We lost all.
You're making history there.
Yeah, we're making history, all right. Yeah, this fault zone, this C1 regional fault zone, it's over 100 meters wide. This is a big friggin' zone, and we know there's mineral on the other side of it. So that was hole number 9, which was abandoned. Hole number 10, which everybody's waiting for, and you have no idea how much I'm waiting for this. What we did was we said, well, forget about trying to hit the Santa Maria structure. Let's just get through the north-south structure and see what's on the other side of it, because we've already seen in hole 8B that there was something there. So we turned the drill at right angles. So now we're going to hit this thing at 90 degrees with this big core, and we punched through it. And sure enough, we punched right through it, not a problem at all, and hit the target zone sitting on the other side. And yes, they did go through the target, and yes, they did go into barren rock after it. So that was drilled great. From there, we proceeded to the north, and everyone's been talking about blue sky and everything else. And of course, we have a duplicate east-west structure as identified by IP to the north, central north section of the property. It is bifurcated by the C1 regional fault, which we've been playing with just south of it. And it's obvious it offsets the geophysical signatures slightly. And we're in the process, or we plan to drill 2 holes in. One hole is on the eastern section of the anomaly, and one is on the western section of the anomaly. The anomaly itself is about 700 meters long, George. And we have finished hole number 12, which was drilled on the east end of the anomaly. And I would say that hole actually went in yesterday for sampling.
So you're going to be getting results back pretty steady now for the next just a few weeks.
Oh, it's going to, yeah. And I remember we were talking about this before, because all the holes would be in different lengths. There's a certain point in time where they're all going to start starting to come out together in groups and everything else. So we're going to start seeing that, I think, starting next week and going forwards. Add to that is now we understand the effect the north south structures are having, and we know they're mineralized, but also what they have on the east west structures, and adding that and going back into the underground workings that were put in by the previous owner to extract the two bulk samples, one of the oxide and one of the sulfides. We went back underground, we remapped that, looking for these north-south structures. And lo and behold, yes, they are there. It's just they didn't recognize them last time. And so we've put that into the database. And as part of this increased drilling program, George, we're going to bring a drill, which is going to drill.
A second drill. You guys are adding a drill.
That's correct. And we'll be drilling from underground, which will be right in the heart of the mineralization. And we'll be drilling to the north and to the south in rings. And basically what these will do is they will not increase the category of the resource that is there to bring it into a measured, but it'll actually be able to define the true width of the hanging wall of the structure and the foot wall of the structure. And of course, these are not going to be super huge holes like we're drilling now. So, we'll probably be drilling 2-3 holes a day, maybe. So there's going to be news drill results coming out. And if you can imagine, if I'm on the drill rig and I'm drilling this way, drilling a fan, and then I turn around and I drill a fan like this is how I'm going to be drilling the ore body to be able to get the shape and the exact grade and everything else. So we're going to be drilling fences through this underground. So it's going to be very exciting. And of course, that is actually going to even supply more detail to be able to model and predict how this beast is behaving with respect to the east-west structures, north-south structures.
Moving back from the technical a little bit. First of all, you don't have to be a geologist to understand that if you're increasing the number of the total drills by 15%, that's significant, and adding a second drill. So just a natural inference there is that things are going great. But what I want to ask you directly is, you came out of retirement for Santa Maria because you thought this was something special. Is it meeting your expectations right now, or is it actually starting to exceed your expectations? Because you sound like, you're pretty excited about what you're potentially seeing here.
Yeah, George, you kind of put me in a tough position there, but of course, I've seen the core and everything else. Don't have assays, but I guess you can look at it. It has to exceed my expectations. Well, I certainly like what I'm seeing, and if I didn't like what I'm seeing, I certainly, being part Scottish, I wouldn't be adding another drill rig and spending more money. So you can read whatever you want into that.
Blue sky drilling.
Yeah.
Right. You're
Absolutely.
You're exploring why the blue sky drilling now. And maybe just give us an idea of the timing expectations for us.
Okay, this is the beginning. We've always talked about through the whole program that we would start off with, expanding the Santa Maria resource and working on the east-west structure, and then eventually, once we identify these north-south structures, we believe they're there. We'd follow up on those. And then we'd go full circle, going from the known to the unknown, and eventually end up at the blue sky drilling. And here we are. We're at that point in time. And of all the conductors that we've seen, or the anomalies, the best one is the central one, and it's called Santa Maria SMIP-04 is the anomaly. And it's 700 meters in length. It's considered what they call a fat body anomaly. To the east, which we've completed hole SM20-12 right now, the top of the conductor was supposed to be at 155 meters vertically, and it was, and we know what the conductor is. And on hole SM20-13, which is on the western sector, the top of the anomaly starts at minus 250 meters vertically. So as you can see, these are, and I think that hole is targeted to go something like 450 meters in length. So these are indeed fat body anomalies. I mean, they're not little things. And one of the press releases we put out, George, I think we put some pseudo sections of what these anomalies look like in the drill hole going through them. So, you know, those are so sizable. You know, you're not talking like a little vein of 1 meters or 2 meters. You know, we're talking tens of meters here. So yeah, it'll be very, very interesting. That in itself is a game changer as far as what the property could look like.
And at some point in the near future, I think it's going to be a good idea. We've talked about this. You and I will do one of these webcasts, but we'll do it with the presentation on
Sure.
screen, so
Yep.
you can help everyone kind of visualize this, because this
Yep.
is starting to grow to a point. You know, it's not your just common deposit. Okay, we got the George Com deposit here, and we're doing this. This is starting to take on multiple levels and layers.
It is. You know, you got to remember.
Which is great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we came in here and we started with, if you want to call it, one plumbing system. Or actually, we came in here, to tell you the truth, and we thought we had two plumbing systems, if you want to put it that way. And one was called, at that point in time, was called the Santa Maria vein and the Santa Maria dose veins. Two veins. So you can imagine, let's call them two plumbing systems bringing water into your house, and each one of those are 3 inches in diameter, right? And then we found out, well, no, actually, Santa Maria vein is on the footwall of the structure, and on the other side of the structure is the Santa Maria dose vein on the hanging wall. So actually, it's one plumbing system, and it's not 3 inches wide. It's 30 feet wide. So that's what we started off with. And then all of a sudden, we started hitting these mineralized north-south structures of various sizes, but they're mineralized. And so now another plumbing system. So you imagine if we go to the north,
Yep.
and we're drilling east-west and big east-west ones. As I said, they're fat body anomalies, big ones again. These are big conduits for mineralization. You can do a lot of damage in a short period of time, George.
And if the story just ended there, that's all we had to say, there wouldn't be a small cap junior resource company that wouldn't love to have what you've got at Santa Maria there. But then on top of that, so more on Santa Maria clearly as results come out next couple of weeks. So we're gonna have a lot to say. But then on top of that, you put out some news about your copper assets that you haven't been focusing on, because obviously Santa Maria is, the flagship right now. Talk to us about the copper assets. Why kind of put out that news?
Well, and believe me, I was kind of forced to put that news out. I really wasn't ready to put that out, George.
Why is that? Why were you forced? Why was your hand forced?
There's the copper we refer to the copper properties as a Musqueam copper belt assets. Okay.
In British Columbia, by the way, for those who are
Northern British Columbia, and there's three claim groups that comprise the assets, and two of the groups were owned by one individual or one company, and one of the other groups by another. And so the one that owned the two groups, the previous hierarchy of Fabled before me, when they negotiated for those properties, just made, pardon my saying this, but just made a stupid deal. It was just stupid. To the point that on March 31st of this year, just passed, I would have had made a payment to the vendor of the property of $5 million plus an advance royalty payment of $250,000 on top of that. Now, I'm sorry, Fabled Silver is drilling in Mexico, and that's my goal, and we're having a great time and everything else. And if you're not going to renegotiate that with me, you know what? I'm not going to do anything with them.
Yeah, of course.
So we went back and we arm wrestled a little bit, and we sawed it off and said, look, you're not going to get any advanced royalty payments. Sorry. And I'm not giving you $500,000. I'll give you $200,000. And so they ended up agreeing upon that. Because that's a material change to the purchase of the property, we had to go public, and hence we had to spill the beans on the copper assets. And I will say we are going to make a very strong statement to the public very shortly, George. You and I had a little chat about this already. And also within that, we will be talking about these copper assets in great detail. The one thing I will say to people listening is that these copper assets, there are numerous copper showings, but there's also copper deposits. And when I say deposit, that infers that there is tonnage, and it has been modeled. And in this case, not only is there tonnage, there has been economics behind that. So these are sizable.
And of course, with copper at $4 a pound, I haven't looked at it in the last couple of days, but at a great price, the copper assets look even better today than they've ever looked.
Yeah. No, these things run 3.5% copper or greater over great distances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these would be,
amazing.
Yeah,
and you've got two separate personalities of the company now. And
we do.
Both are very, very optimistic, are very favorable.
Yeah, it just makes it confusing for me, George, because am I wearing a silver hat or am I wearing a copper hat, right?
Well, I know of one way to take care of that problem, because we've seen other companies who have been spinning out. I'm not going to ask you because it sounds like whatever you're going to talk about, you're going to talk about. But there have been companies, that's what they're doing now. They're trying to get full value for assets that are separate, so they're just separating them.
And we are talking with, we have our financial advisors, and they're looking at that, and they're looking at tax implication of shareholders, everything in the best interest of shareholders. How do you unlock value for the shareholders, right? And that's the name of the game. And that's my job. That is my job. My job is to report to the shareholders to unlock value. Whether it's the silver assets or the copper assets or a combination of both. And so we'll look forward to getting the best for the shareholder. Absolutely.
Well, Peter, it looks like up until now, anyways, you're definitely unlocking value for shareholders. Just on Santa Maria alone, things are going so great, and you've got these rush assays in. Can't wait to see what those say. Can't wait for all the holes up to hole 13. Right. By the way, what happens? We'll leave it on this. What happens after hole 13? Is that the regroup? Is that the regroup period?
No. You know what? After hole 13, George, is the old go back into hole 8B, go to the bottom of the hole and punch through that mineralized zone that I never got through.
And I guess at that point you kind of regroup. And I know there's more plans because you've already talked about that.
No, we already know where we're going.
All right. So it's going to be safe to say that Fabled has got a path, pretty clear path of what's going to be doing for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. You know,
with a lot of this. Yeah, and the other thing too, George, with a lot of this planning that's going on, and we're talking about it, and you and I are talking about it, myself and the team and everything else, we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, planning all this out and looking at this, and what about that, and evaluating this, and adding this piece of knowledge into that, or this alteration into the overall package, and how does that affect on this? And, so there's all of us in the team Fabled, we're working our little butts off here trying to make everything rosy for everyone.
Well, Peter, honestly, every time we talk, it just keeps getting better and better. And I know you're not at the end game yet. So for everybody watching at home, there's still more work to be done, but there's no doubting the value being added and the advancement of Santa Maria. It's exciting. It's almost becoming a show that every week you want to tune back in to see what's next. And that is the case, right? I would presume from the times you're telling me, within the next 7 to 10 days, you're going to be back.
Oh, well, if you'll have me, I'd love to be.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's the Fabled. it's the Fabled TV show now, right? So, but all kidding aside, yeah, man. I mean, absolutely, and congratulations
Well,
on.
you know what, George? They actually, honest to God, some of our shareholders actually have Fabled T-shirts that they did themselves, and I've heard of that being floating around.
You got great shareholders, and now you know why, right? I mean,
Well, thanks to them, I wouldn't be increasing the drill program. So
yeah,
I will do everything in my power to make it, all of it, as a benefit to the Fabled shareholders.
all right. Tune in next week for the Fable of Fabled. Thanks, Peter.
Okay, great, George. Thank you.
To everybody at home, you've been watching or if you've been listening by podcast on Spotify, Google, Apple, your favorite podcast platform, to Peter Hawley, President, CEO of Fabled Silver Gold, FCO on the TSX Venture Exchange. And, it's Fabled is not his one-trick pony. We've talked about in the past, Peter's had a couple of successful exits. He's done this and with great teams, and they're doing great things. So what you got to do is your due diligence. Is Peter going to have another success? That's the part that you got to start determining. The way you do that is get to the Fabled Hub on Agoracom, take a look at the profile section, because we know, look, it's geology and it's not easy for everyone to understand. So what we've done on the profile section is created a nice layman's explanation overview of what they've got. But then you hop over and you can see the URL right above Peter's head there, or you can do it from Agoracom, obviously. Hop right over to the Fabled site and do more due diligence and do more great research, and hopefully discovered your next great small cap junior resources company. Thanks for joining us. Have an amazing day. See you next time.